Are you struggling with getting your kick and the bass to sound good? Are you tired of wasting hours on processing, tweaking your kick and the bass, and still getting crappy sounding mixes? In this video, I'm going to share a scientific approach to getting a perfect kick and bass every time you produce a track. So we're going to go from a track sounding like this to sounding like this. So let's talk to example number one. The kick is white and the bass is red. So even though the sub of the kick is not competing with the bass, it just sits too high. In this case, bass is not very heavy on the low end, as you can see on the spectrum, which means we can have a more powerful kick. So the problem with this kick is just it's way too high, right? And then with this bass, it sounds very weird on studio speakers. And it just doesn't give you that nice punch, that nice low end. However, with the second example that we're going to break down in the track, it actually sounds pretty okay. Although I'm not super happy, but it's a little bit better. Because if you look at it, you can see the kick is red. It is not competing with the main harmonic of the bass, and the bass is a little bit more heavy. So there's no such thing as a wrong kick. It's more like you just don't understand the context of the bass and the context of the kick. That's the only problem. So the first concept for today is understanding your bass, the frequencies, the harmonics, and where you can put your kick. So if you look at this, these are the main harmonics of the bass. So ideally, we don't want the kick to compete with them. To make sure we don't overload the speakers in the club, we must position the sub of the kick either below or above the main harmonic. This, however, depends on the style that you're making. In most cases, the sub of the kick will be around 50 to 60 because everything that is below is going to be too low, just the speakers will not be able to play it. In this case, we have quite a bit of space between 50 and 100 hertz for the kick. So the sub will be between 50 and 100. So the big idea here, if you choose the kick that fits, it will be a lot easier than trying to fix it in the mix. So please guys, just spend time on finding good samples, synthesizing good samples. I don't care where you are going to find them. You have to find sounds that just fit from the very beginning, and this is the key to professional sounding music. So let me show you my proper kick, right? So we go with this one, and now we can have a look. Let's remove the processing. If we freeze this, now we can break down the whole thing. So you see the kick is red, and because this bass is not very heavy on the low end, we have quite a bit of space for that kick to play, right? And because we don't have any like main harmonics between 30 and around, so from 50 till 164, we have that space for the kick. So you can allow yourself to have a more heavy kick. And then also the thump of the kick is around 120. It is not competing with the bass here, as you can see, so 153. And it's really crucial to understand the harmonics of the kick and the harmonics of the bass so that you can either find a sample or synthesize the kick. We're going to cover that in this video. I'm gonna show you one more example with the third kick. It is a sample. It is not really that bad. It's somewhere like in between the first one and the second kick, which I synthesized. So like it's not bad. Already much better. And if you look at the where the spectrum is, it's also pretty similar, right? So the kick is white in this example and the bass is red. So you can see it's pretty much the same logic. We are trying to fit the kick into the pocket of the bass, and depending on the bass you will choose a kick that fits. Okay, so let's now have a look at the second example. This is the second bass. I changed the pitch, it's a little bit lower, and because of that it's more bass heavy on the low end, so the pocket for the kick is a little bit smaller, but we have a bit more space for the punch, right? The thump, the like low mids of the kick. There's quite a bit of difference between the first and the second bass. So you need to always consider what's the context of the bass and which kick can I use to make sure that I get the right groove, I get the right tension, and so that it sounds good overall. I have synthesized another kick, which sounds like this, and it goes with the bass pretty well. So we can see here. So we do, however, have this 70 Hertz harmonic, but overall you can see the kick fits pretty well into the pocket. And now we can test a little bit with different kicks just to see how that goes. Let's do kick number 2. This one is not really that well. It is pretty much like the same as the bass, and we can test that on real phones. I mean, it's not bad. Let's compare with this one. The punch is a little bit better. And it's more like massive, it's more powerful. I like mine a little bit more. Now let's talk about a very important concept. I talk about this in every single video, but I think I need to repeat it every time. So, kick and bass length. The problem most producers have with the low end is that the kick and the bass are overlapping. It's crucial to get the timing, the length of these two elements correctly. Otherwise, your track, your low end will sound weak, muddy, it will lack pump, it will lack groove, and so on. Let's dive deep into that. So we have this synthesized kick, and I want you to have a look at the waveform here. So overall, it's pretty balanced, but I'm going to make it a little bit longer just to exaggerate and illustrate the example. Now you can see that the kick is basically eating up the space and it's eating up the bass, which is not good at all. So you want to avoid that at all costs. And what I see people do is they have a kick and they just totally forget about the envelope here, right? So we can play. This one is not really long. So it's actually pretty good. And if you are using samples, like please go to this control thing and really see what decay time, what's the perfect length for the kick and the bass. Because sometimes you want to go shorter, sometimes you want to go a little bit longer. For example, this is a little bit too short. And something like that will be good. You can double check on the waveform here. Looking pretty good, just make sure that the tail of the kick is not getting into the bass, it's not eating up the bass. Now let's talk about synthesizing the kick. I like making my own kicks as it gives me full control over the shape and the tone. Often, I can't find samples that work with the vibe of my track, and you just saw that. I had like 2-3 samples. Yes, they are sort of like 50-60% okay, but not really the kick that I'm looking for. So the pitch points might not be the exact numbers as in the pockets, like free space that we have on the spectrum in the bass. So you will need to play a little bit with that. Just make sure it's close. So let's have a look at the first example, and I'm gonna show you how I am synthesizing my kicks. I'm gonna tweak those points a little bit so that you can understand how that affects the whole sound of the kick and the bass, right? So we have 51, which is basically the pocket that we had previously, right? And then we have 77, 146, and again, don't really look at the numbers. It doesn't really matter. You have to listen and really trust your ears, right? So let's have, you know, some fun with it, play a little bit. So by shifting those points a little bit, you can really affect the vibe of the kick. If I go too high, this is not good. So it's a little bit too much. There's too much tension, and this note goes into the bass. So around 50, yeah, 52, as I originally did, is good. And then you repeat the process with every single point. I'm not going to be like teaching you how to do it, but it's a really, really important skill. For now, you can just copy. You can just copy the settings, what I'm doing here. I'm going to, by the way, link the name of the plugin in the comments so that you can check. And then you just really need to find those points that work well. Again, it might not be the exact numbers of those pockets that we have on the spectrum, but you can play with them a little bit. Maybe you want to go like this, not bad. Right, and then with every single point, depending on what character of the kick you want to have for the track, you can play with it, right? And the last thing, once you get the pitch right, we can shape the kick. And this is my favorite part of these kick synthesizers. So you can make the kick sound however you want, and I'm gonna show you how cool is that, right? So for example, if you don't like the mids, if you don't like the thump, I'm not a fan of those kicks. I really like soft and subby. So we can go back to this one. Actually pretty nice, right? Again, it might not be the perfect kick, but I'm teaching you the overall mindset and thinking. Once you master this, whether you're going to be synthesizing or picking samples, finding the right kick will not be a problem. So just understand the context of the kick and of the bass. Also, what you can do, depending on the kick and the bass that you have, you will see the conflicting frequencies, right? The red is the conflicting frequency, so we can take the bass and we can do a little bit of dynamic EQ just to make sure that it fits with the kick. And also, depending on the plugins that you're going to be using, we can also cut a little bit off that sub, the low frequencies of the kick, and that's going to make it better. And it's going to fit a little bit more, right? And the last thing is referencing. You saw how I'm using real phones. It gives me different perspectives with different speakers, so I can really make sure that my kick and bass are sounding good. And also the next thing is putting an auto filter on your master channel and really listening to how the kick and the bass sound. So this is a really good separation. And if we listen to that first kick, that wasn't good. It's just boomy. It's not really balanced. There's no it's like the thump, the punch, the groove is just lacking. And this is a really easy and quick way to reference your track. So if you don't have real phones, again, just listening to that sub on the master is really, really nice. And we can do the same, like, yeah, really good separation, really good low end. So that's it. So this is how you make good sounding kicks. If you guys like my videos and you want to work with me, there's a link down below. You can book a call on my website, send me a message on Instagram, let's have a chat. I'll be happy to help you with your music. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.